After 14 years in power, you'd think the Conservative Party might have figured out what they stand for by now. But if this past week has anything to show by, it's not that they're just out of ideas, they're actively contradicting themselves live on air. First up is Robert Jenrick. Now, he embarrassed himself and the party by getting into an argument with Sky News presenter Wilfred Frost over their lack of policies. He's outraged at Labour's winter fuel allowance plan, except when asked what the Conservative alternative is, he can't seem to answer.
The plans on winter fuel payments. Do you support the government to change your position on this and support the idea of a threshold, or do you think it should be universal?
Well, we voted against this when Rachel Reeves announced it. We said it was wrong at the time, and we believe it's wrong today. You shouldn't be taking away the winter fuel allowances from some of the poorest pensioners in our country. We're going to have to wait and see what the proposals actually are. There's no detail at the moment, and then we'll consider our position at that time. But we voted against this, and we have fought tooth and nail throughout the winter to secure this screeching U-turn from Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves. What we haven't had yet is an apology to these poor pensioners who have lost money that they can ill afford and have had to cope with their energy bills and the cost of living this winter as a result.
Should it be universal or some level of means testing, whether it's thresholds or other?
Well, I think we're going to have to wait and see, if you excuse me, we're going to have to wait and see what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves bring forward, and then we'll come forward with our position. But we have fought this tooth and nail, and all credit to Kemi Badenoch in forcing this U-turn from Keir Starmer.
As with so many areas, we do await your actual policies, which I know are taking a while to formulate, including specifically on...
Well, we have a policy. Well, that's not fair. We fought this.
You did, but then you must. Okay, so what is it universal? Does it go back to universal?
Keir Starmer only said that he's going to do a U-turn.
But what's your view?
Prime Minister's question time yesterday, and we haven't even heard what his proposals are.
Don't push back on my criticism that your party hasn't announced policies for however many months it's been under your new leadership, and then not provide me your policy. What is your policy on this?
Well, we don't know what Labour's... You're asking me to respond to something where Labour haven't even said what their policy is.
You were in government for 14 years. You know all the details of the winter fuel permit. You know the pluses, you know the minuses.
We voted against it. We voted against it.
And what is your policy from here?
Well, we have opposed the removal of the winter fuel allowance. We are going to have
What would you replace it with?
Well, we've opposed removing it. We voted against it. We said we didn't.
So you go back to it being completely universal.
We're going to have to wait and see what Keir Starmer brings forward.
Fine. So don't criticise me for saying you don't have your own policy yet. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, we'll have to wait and see what Labour does first. You fought it tooth and nail, Robert, but what you can't tell us is what you'd actually do instead. 14 years and you've still waited on the opposition to set your agenda. Then we've got Dr. Kieran Mullan, who apparently thinks being a doctor means saving money instead of saving lives. He's all in on keeping the two-child benefit cap because it saves the government cash. Removing the two-child benefit cap would lift 250,000 children out of poverty and mean 850,000 children are in less than deep poverty. But no, we get the same old line, if you can't afford them, you shouldn't have them. It's just nonsense, and it doesn't take into account that the 40% of people that claim universal credit, which this cap is linked to, are already working. The Tories just want you to believe that living in poverty is a lifestyle choice.
We absolutely welcome a commitment from Labour to look at it again. We don't know what position we're going to be at the time of the next election when it comes to the economy, the damage that Labour is doing to our economy, the state of the public finances. But it's absolutely right that Labour are looking at this again. It's on them really very quickly to put forward a clear position on how they're going to reform the eligibility. We welcome that decision.
Whatever it is, with no clarity still on what your position is, continuing a theme of last week. Let's touch on the two-child benefit cap. Where do you stand on that?
Well, we think the cap needs to stay. This is something that saves money for the government. That's an easier commitment to make, as you'll understand. It's not a spending commitment. And it's all about fairness. There are very many families who have to make careful decisions about their finances and the size of their families. And all this policy does is say that those that are on benefits shouldn't be excluded from those very same decisions. Without this policy, you end up in a situation where someone might have 5, 6, 7 children, an ever-increasing family size, and that the taxpayer has to pick up the bill for that. And we don't think that's fair. That's why we brought the policy in and why we're committed to keeping it.
And finally, we've got Kevin Hollinrake, who came out swinging with zero consistency. First, he says that everyone should get their winter fuel payments back, yes, even millionaires. But wait, party leadership says millionaires shouldn't. So he backpedals, then doubles down, then blames the complexity of the system.
But just to be clear, you want every single pensioner, including millionaires, to get those payments back?
Yeah, of course. But that's the only way you can reverse those changes rapidly.
But Kemi Badenoch, sorry. Mr. Kemi Badenoch, your party leader, has come out this morning and said millionaires should not be getting the winter fuel payment. That is not right.
Yeah, and nobody disagrees with that.
But you just told me they should be.
No, many of those millionaires give that money away already to charity and other things. But what we need to do is look at the system.
You've just said to me that, of course, everybody should get them back. Your party leader has openly said that millionaires shouldn't. She says that is not right. So you're saying something very different to your party leader.
That's not true. That's not true, Ben. You should listen to what the Prime Minister, what the leader of the opposition said.
I did very closely. She said this. I'm quoting her directly. Millionaires should not get the winter fuel payment. That is not right. I've just asked you if you should, and you said yes, definitely.
No. We're reversing it initially.
Yes.
So everybody gets it because it's the only way you can move to it to reverse those changes rapidly. Down the track, of course, you can look then about how you would do that practically so that there is a means testing at a much higher level than currently.
So you would give them back to the millionaires and then maybe at some point down the line take them away again.
You're not clear about that.
What's the point of that?
Because I've just explained. That's the only way you can do it rapidly.
Why did the Conservative Party for 14 years give huge amounts of taxpayers' money through winter fuel payments to millionaires for 14 years?
Well, it's not huge amounts. Let's be fair about this. The number of millionaire
many millions of pounds.
There's not many millionaire pensioners. Let's be realistic.
It's a quarter of pensioners live in millionaire households.
But the answer to your question is it's complicated to do.
So the position is we want to reverse it quickly, but then maybe reverse it a bit later, but then also maybe not because of reasons.
What's the Conservative policy in that? Should the two-child benefit cap be lifted?
Well, that's not our policy, and it was brought in for good reason. Basically, it's at £3.5 billion a year cost to that. I've heard a number of commentators on this today, a number of politicians saying this is the best way to take people out of poverty. It is not. The best way, without doubt, and you can check this with the Resolution Foundation, which are a left-wing think tank, the best way to bring people out of poverty is to get people in a job, a better job.
But most of the people who claim child benefit are in jobs already.
Well, yes, and that's why we want those jobs to be better paying, which is why we increased the national living wage and got it to 2/3 of median income. Some of the record increases for those people on national living wage.
But in the time you were in government, Mr. Hollinrake, the number of children pushed into relative poverty increased by 600,000.
Well, you're picking one statistic, Ben, which is
it's a pretty damning one.
No, well, you look at absolute
pushed
poverty.
600,000 more children into poverty over 14 years.
Look at absolute poverty. It's a much better measure, a much more accurate measure.
There's 4 measures for child poverty. 3 of them show that it went up under the Conservatives. You're using the one that went down.
One thing we did in government, Ben, we got 4.2 million more people in work.
You're contradicting yourself because you're saying we put wages up, we got more people into work, and you're also saying that's the best way to lift child poverty. Whereas I'm pointing out to you that, yes, you did those things, and at the same time, 600,000 more children were pushed into poverty. So it's not just about work, isn't it?
You're just taking one measure, and that's not the measure we use.
You use the one of the 4 that showed that it went down rather than up.
It is beyond any doubt. You look at any economist, any sensible think tank, and they will tell you the best way to get people out of poverty is so they can find a well-paid job.
But you've come on this morning and you've said you would, at least in the short term, give millionaires back their winter fuel payments, but you wouldn't act to immediately lift 250,000 kids out of poverty.
Well, where's £3.5 billion a year coming from?
Well, some of it could come from not giving millionaires their winter fuel payments.
Well,
3 different ministers, 3 different answers, no clear policy, no leadership, no direction, just excuses, and bad ones at that. When the Tories can't even agree with themselves, how can they possibly claim to lead the country? They can't even lead an effective opposition. It's no wonder they've dropped to 4th place in the polls. And is Kemi Badenoch really that worried about the polls? I think so, which you can see in the video that's on screen now. So go watch that next. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.